say Ripeni Dungunye. So today our topic is pollination in plants. So we are going to look specifically on insect pollinated plants or flowers. Insect pollinated plants or flowers, these are the insects that are pollinated by mainly by plants that are not pollinated by wind. For example, this flower is the insect pollinated flower. This one is some features such as stamen and pistil. These are the main features. Then the stamen consists of an anther and a filament which is holding an anther. Then we have pistil, which is the female reproductive of a flower, which is the style, which consists of a style and a stigma. This then there are some features like petal, sepal, receptacle, and pedicel. We are going to discuss them as we go down. The main feature here is the pistil and the stigma. The pistil and the stamen. The stamen is the female and the pistil the female. We have functions of petals on a flower. Petals have a few different functions in flowers. Firstly, they attract pollinators. They attract pollinators and by being brightly colored, and they have a scent. They also protect flowers inside so that there's no wind that can go inside to keep the flower wet, for the nectar to be wet. And petals also protect the inner reproductive of parts of the flower from damage or drying out. So some petals may play important role in flowers in helping flowers to reproduce. We have the stamen. The stamen, which we call the male reproductive side of a flower. The stamen is the male reproductive part of the flower, and it has two main parts, the anther and the filament. The anther is the part that produces or releases pollen, while the filament is the stalk that supports the anther. So the main function of the stamen is to produce pollen and spread them to other plants or to the female part of the flower. The pollen is carried from stamen by insects to the stigma or birds or wind in wind pollinated flowers, but this is an insect pollinated flower. Once the pollen reaches the stigma, it travels down the style to the ovary. The next step, the function of the pistil. The pistil is the female reproductive part of the flower, and it has three main parts: the stigma, the ovary. As we discussed, the stigma is the part that receives the pollen from stamen. The style is the long stalk that connects the stigma to the ovary, and the ovary is the part of the flower that holds eggs. So the main function of the pistil is to receive pollen from the stamen to protect the ovary and eggs inside. So this is the way pollen from stamen are received in the pistil at the center point of the stigma. They are received by the stigma and they go down the style to the ovary where fertilization is taking place. We have the sepals. The sepals are the green leaf-like structure that are the base of the flower. Their main function to protect the flower is still a bud before it opens. After the flower blooms, the sepal may wither and fall off. In some flowers, the sepals may last entirely life for the flower. In some species, the sepals may even be brightly colored and help to attract. So the sepals may help to attract the pollinators to come and pollinate the flower, or for in may help in protecting the flower from failing. The next part, we have the receptacle. The receptacle is the part of the flower that holds the parts like the sepals, petals, stamen, and the pistil. It is located at the base of the flower, of the stamen, and in some flowers, the receptacle may be small and unnoticeable, but others, like the receptacle may be large and very obvious. In some in some flowers, like sunflowers, the receptacle may be large and very obvious. In some flower, the receptacle may even turn into fruit after the flower is pollinated or fertilized. So this part of the flower in some flowers is unnoticeable. It cannot be seen, but in some flowers it can be turned into a fruit. So that its main function. We have the filament. A filament is the long thin stalk that holds the end of the stamen. So its main function is to support the anther and help it spread pollen. But the filament can also regulate temperature of the ends, which is important for keeping pollen healthy. Some filament may be a very long and flexible, while others short and stiff. The length flexibility of the filament can be adapted on on the length and flexibility of the filament can be adapted to the specific pollinators that a flower needs to attract. So the main function of the filament is to hold the anther and regulate the temperature. To regulate the temperature so that the pollens may stay alive. So to bring the like water on some nutrients so that the pollens may not die on the flower. Ovary and ovules. The ovary and ovules are essential parts of the flower reproductive system. The ovary is the enlarged base and of the pistil and contains the ovules. The ovules are small structures that contain the female reproductive cells called the egg cells. When the pollen lands on the stigma, it germinates and reproduces a pollen tube that grows down the stem and reaches the ovule. Once the pollen tube reaches the ovules, it fertilizes egg. So the fertilization is done in the ovary where the ovules are. While the pollen pass through the oval tubes. So this is where fertilization occurred in the ovary. We have I think we are done here.